Chrono Trigger, the game that was way ahead of its time in way too many ways, if you catch my drift. A game that is held as the greatest JRPG of all time, and sometimes even the greatest video game of all time. A game where a super team of developers, composers, and even a legendary artist all put their brains together to create this once-in-a-lifetime experience. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I played Chrono Trigger for the first time, and I want to share my thoughts on it with the story, gameplay, art, and music. Let's get started. The year is 1000 AD. 17-year-old badass who lives with his mom. Just joking, I lived with my parents at 17 and 19. And Anyways, he decides to visit the Mate da Gra one day for the village, and then runs into let me look up this age. A girl who fawns over him like Sakura to Sasuke. They go around doing festivities together, and maybe steal some food off someone's plate, and maybe down 8 beers. Bro, he's 17! When I was 17, I was playing Overwatch trying to get gold on my Genji. I didn't have my first sip of beer till 18, and that's when everything changed. My friend would make this shit called God's Piss. It was a homebrew of a bunch of shit. I don't know what's in it, besides lemonade and alcohol. Luca, our childhood friend, is on the show of her Among Us venting machine. She demonstrates that it works on Chrono, but then our girl goes in to try for herself, and she gets banished into the Shadow Realm. Due to a special necklace, banished into the Shadow Realm we go, long before 1000 AD. I strongly recommend going into this game blind because I've heard and seen this game multiple times. I did not know that the story is all time travel related, and it's in the name twice and in the logo. Maybe I'm just good at blocking out spoilers. Chrono falls headfirst into the noose-hanging era of this world, looking for Marl. We look around, but we hear rumors of the queen of this world was kidnapped. So, to the castle we go. We found out that Marl was taken in because she looks like the wife of the king. Incest warning! Marl starts to cease to exist because without the actual queen, the king can't pipe and make Marl. Saving Marl through the sheer power of toad magic, Marl comes back with us, heading back to the portal we come from. We then head back to our timeline. We come back, and we're taken into custody for abduction of fine shit. We're thrown into prison there to rot forever. The end. Just kidding. Busting out of prison using the oldest trick in the book, kidnapping Marl, for real this time, and destroying a dragon robot as we flee the scene. We trip on a rock and out comes a portal. We go in and end up in a third world country with no food or plant life, where the civilians have no food but can't die due to this machine that revitalizes them. This sounds like hell. By the way, it's not a third world country, it's just the future. In this future, we fuck around and find out where a hedgehog destroys the world. Sounds like the bad ending of Shadow the Hedgehog. The hedgehog god is named Lavos, the space fuckboy who fucks on the planet to produce the ultimate life form, and then leaves to get cigarettes. In every timeline we go to, we see that Lavos destroys the world in the future every time, so our goal is to stop this from happening and destroy this dumb rat. This future is overrun by robots. What a surprise. Except there's one good one who was saved by Luca to accompany and learn from humanity, unlike the robots that detest humans. That is Robo. I named him Bobo. He is our next crew member, but he can't leave yet. Finding another Narnia portal, we end up in this creepy space in time known as the End of Time, where a random old man is just chilling in the middle of it, and he tells us we need to set a course to change history and defeat Lavos. With that in mind, we go through a bunch of different timelines to alter history and prevent Lavos from destroying humanity, and it starts with taking out the demon generals and stopping a white-haired elf from summoning Lavos, but we fail. We also go to the Stone Age and make friends with a baddie and these reptites. They're kinda cool. They remind me of the Triceratrons from TMNT 2003, which is a very underrated show. I really recommend it. They take our portal device, so we need to crack their skulls. A meteor comes down, flying from space, and that meteor is Lavos, who eliminates most of the reptites and becomes Asmongold and buries into the ground smelling like absolute dog shit. He reigns on the world to create the Ice Age, which marks the halfway point of this game. Here's where I stop talking about the main plot. I'll talk about the rest of it in the spoiler section. This is an active, turn-based RPG with a little bit of strategy game elements added in. First off, typical JRPG stuff like equipment and items, and what I really like is how much easier it is to get MP replenishing items in this game compared to most other RPGs. Unlike most in this genre, you can see the enemies you'll be fighting with no random encounters to make you put a hole in your desk and your fucking wall. Because if you're like me, you hate random encounters when it's over and over and over again. But while exploring in the dungeons, enemies do respawn if you leave a room, which makes grinding fairly easy, but you really don't need to grind because there's also XP share. Battles are done with the ATB gauge. Basically, time moves on in the middle of the battle, and you need to pick and think pretty fast. You can turn this off in the settings if you don't like the stress, but then it just becomes a normal JRPG. You're set with 3 party members, and you can switch them out at any time once you get to the halfway point. Each party member feels different due to everyone learning diverse abilities. While being good at one type of class, like Marl being a good healer and a support, she can also do magic damage too, or Frog being a good physical damage and a good support. Different attacks can have 1 to 3 shapes. It can hit in a line and hit enemies behind it. It can hit in a circle and hit enemies in a group, or it can hit all the enemies all at once. But most attacks are just normal and hit one enemy at a time. This leads to different strats for different battles on some regular encounters, but most of them are pretty easy, so I don't really care with the little resistance on some of the enemies. The boss battles have different puzzles or strategies for each, like attacking an area that regenerates faster, or dutching a sand monster with water in order to Luffy versus Crocodile it. And the boss fights are a lot of fun, especially Magus, but the regular encounters can end up me mashing the auto battle button more times than I can count, especially by the end of the game. Also, the final boss was pretty easy. None of the dungeons were bad at all. Every one of them was short and sweet with plenty of goodies to find and little puzzles to satisfy. I enjoyed that there was no overworld combat encounters, which makes the game feel much more faster than its other counterparts in the genre, like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest. There are goodies all over the world and special chests which you can't access until near the halfway point. There are little mini games throughout the game, like a race or Simon Says, and they don't overstay their welcome. Very easy controls and give a short break from everything going on. I quite enjoyed the Simon Says. The game isn't too difficult except for a boss or two where it took me a handful of tries to beat overall. Overall, I think I died only like 9 to 10 times in this game. I usually die like 50 to 60 times in a game because I'm generally ass. The side stories are pretty ahead of its time because they develop the characters even further and are pretty important, to be honest. If you skip them, you're going to be missing a lot. And they flesh out the characters, and they use time travel situations which will change the future or past depending on what options you choose. Like giving bacon to a poor family, she realizes there's still good people out there and says she will still teach her next generations to be kind and give to others. This changes the personality of a greedy old man that only cares to line his pockets. Let's just say they aren't fetch quests, except helping the reptites. That shit fucking sucked. The music was composed by Yasunori Mitsuda, who worked on the sound effects of early Final Fantasy titles and later had his hand in composing 97% of the music on this game. He did not disappoint. It was his first work, and he basically worked himself to death to get this soundtrack right. Nobu Uematsu, my goat, who was the lead composer for Final Fantasies 1 and 9, had to do the other 3% because Mitsuda couldn't finish it in time. There's one other composer, Nariko Matsuda, who helped with the boss battle track. They all did a wonderful job bringing this OST to life, and it fits the story beats so well. It's also the SNES's best work in my opinion, and the SNES had some banger music. Let's start with the battle theme, which is playing right now. A interesting theme to say the least, with more use of bass than guitar. The song also feels like a James Bond or Mission Impossible chase scene, and it's always riding on some wheels and going, and just going and going. It's awesome. Wind Scene. The song that plays when you first find out you're in the past. It has a whimsical feel that sounds like it's been holding on for dear life, with a leading melody slipping away. Fits well with how this timeline is overrun with demons and fiends. The royal theme of the castle that has these bombastic drums in the back that build up to this beautiful call and response that just keeps going and getting more and more heroic. It's also the music that you hear when you get accused of fucking the king's wife, which is hilarious. Silent Light, a dungeon theme which has the cryptic feel I love, and the piano sounds like it's tiptoeing like an evil villain in a cartoon. This is also the first Nobu Uematsu track. Rhythm of the Wind, Sky, and Earth. Not everyone's gonna appreciate this one, but I really like the Oonga Boonga caveman music. The drums, I think it's an ashiko. It's plain and simple, but it's so groovy. And the shakers give it just enough flavor. Boss Battle 2, this is my favorite out of the three that really ramps up the most for me because of the intensity of the melody really telling you we have to destroy this thing, and fast. Battle with Magus, an epic arrangement fitting for the final boss theme, more so than the actual final boss theme. It reminds you of his darkness and his aura farming with his slow build-up. Ruined World. This sounds depressed, it sounds desolate, and it sounds lonely. The wind and clock ticking really makes you feel, as the player, that you are abandoned, with no hope whatsoever. Last but not least, the song that everyone knows. I actually can't talk about it much here, as I want to say the few other things I have in the spoiler portion, because it's a big spoiler. Let's just say it's a song that really shoots you in the face with the world we just stepped in, confused on how the hell is this the past. I'm just gonna briefly talk about the characters. I'll dive a little bit more when I talk about the side quests for them, which will be in the spoiler section. Let's start with Marl, our strong female that isn't a damsel in distress, but she checks every box for one though. I like her character as wanting to explore the world because she's in a spoiled royal family, and her quarrel with her dad kinda made me mad because she just trusted the rumor of something someone said outside the castle. And while the romance with Chrono might feel a little forced, it completely makes sense with the ages of the characters. Luca, our scientist of the group, a girl who's a childhood friend of Chrono, who has a crush on him, but doesn't get in the way of Marl because she's just happy to see Chrono happy. She's technically the reason this whole game happens, but then again, if we don't save the future, then everybody's just gonna die. She has a pretty bad backstory, and you can prevent it if you aren't an idiot like me. Frog, one of the knights of the king from the Middle Ages who was cursed by Magus with a frog body and witnessed the death of his best friend Cyrus, who was killed by Magus. He's now a hermit because he believes he's a freak monster ever since he turned into a frog. Robo, kind of our mascot of the group. He's a kind robot that wants to live alongside humanity and save people, unlike his robot buddies who think humans are inferior, and he gets pretty close to Luca and they become best friends. Ayla, this badass muscle mommy, only talks in Oonga Boonga terms, but she's always hilarious when she sees something new. Very well guided leader for her village. There's one more character I want to talk about, but I can only talk about him in the spoilers. Speaking of spoilers, this is where I'm going to stop and talk about spoilers. So, if you want to, just either click off the video or click to this timestamp right here for my conclusion. And yeah, or if you don't care about spoilers, just keep on watching. But you have been warned. The fact that we get cameos of going back to America and stopping 9/11 was pretty cool. It was a cool use of time travel and everything. I've never seen that in a game before. Alright, we know that didn't happen. That was just to filter out the idiots. As you get to the halfway point through the game, we will land in the Ice Age that was brought about by Lavos nutting all over the planet. The humans discover a shiny rock that is Lavos' left nut that he left on the floor while fucking the world. This gives them the power to wield magic, and they create a world in the sky full of floating islands and discriminating against the ones that cannot, leaving them down in the dirt in the caves. When I first saw this community of magical beings right after the caveman age, I was like, how the fuck is this the past? This makes almost no sense. And it's just such a crazy development that happened back then. It really reminds you of the mystery surrounding the ancient kingdom in One Piece that everybody is still trying to theorize. Because humanity is stupid, these magical humans created a machine in order to harvest more of Lavos' power and later summon him to the world because they just can't get enough. They can never be satisfied, just like America. Sorry, that was a little political. Two important people I forgot to mention, Shala and Janice. They are part of the Queen's family, Shala being the eldest daughter and princess too. But she wears an amulet around her neck that will later be passed down generations, all the way to Marl's neck. Everything is starting to come full circle. This necklace is actually the key to the machine to harvest Lavos' power. She is also the one who's freed us from the clutches of the Queen before we were banished. She just wants to save her mother. Same with Janice, an incredible magic wielder that chooses to hide the fact that he can control magic because of the way his mother was snorting the lines of alchemy. He also says one of us will perish, leaving an ominous feeling that someone in the party is going to die. We're then banished from the realm by stabbing their machine and forced back into the Stone Age, just like the gurus that helped the Queen in power. All these gurus were banished to different timelines, and we see them in every instance throughout the story. Suddenly the points start connecting and the story is unraveling all of its mysteries, just like the door that we can finally go through that one of the gurus built. The guru that was banished to the future built this time machine, We can use it to go wherever and whenever we want. Just don't wander off and not teleport to a timeline without a portal, because I lost my fucking parking spot. Like, generally, you can't get back to the time machine if you don't remember where you parked it. We later hear rumors of an ocean palace which is made to get closer to Lavos' spawn and just harvest more power and live down there. As we adventure through Ocean Palace, we meet Lavos for the first time, and he's just as ugly as my anal cavity. As we fight him, he gets mad and blows his load, literally erasing Chrono from existence. An interesting choice. Not many games would be willing to just kill their MC, which we of course get him back, but the game literally says he is murdered due to him sacrificing his life for his friends. Lavos also takes down the Magic Kingdom with him, and basically forces magic away from the world. The humans can't wield magic anymore, so there's no distinction in the lower class and the upper class now. So now they live in harmony and magic is gone. We learn of someone who washed up after Lavos blew his load. It turns out to be Magus, and he has a rather interesting backstory. He is shown to be a prophet that banished us from the Magic Kingdom. He got here due to our encounter with him and Lavos in the Middle Ages. He got close to the Queen, trying to undo her twisted mind, and the reason for this is because he is Janus, who was banished by his mother in a different timeline and was sent to the Middle Ages, where that fat bastard Ozzy takes him in and raised him due to how powerful his magic is. Magus has a burning hatred for Lavos because of what he did, and he summoned him for the only intention to kill him. He joins our party if you decide to let him live, which I did because I never really pegged him as a villain, even though he did all those horrible things to Frog and Cyrus. But yeah, Frog was not happy about that. Around this time, it's around the end of the main story, except for a bunch of side content. You have a bunch of options for 13 different endings, but I just got the one. You get access to a bunch of side content that fleshes out the characters, like the parental relationship Marl has with her pops, finding out what really happened to Marl's mother, and you hear that her father was supposedly the reason her mother died from an unknown illness. The Chancellor believed that the rumors that the king poisoned her and tells all the castle folk and Marl. Another storyline runs along with this to give Marl a chance to redeem her father and defend him, showing that she really does care for him, even though he can be a little conservative and strict with his parenting. Robo's Crest being a whole hidden dungeon involving a super AI program known as Mother Brain that has been spitting out Robo birth since conceived in order to take over the future and overrun the human race. She started taking over all the robots when Lavos destroyed the world years prior. She is essentially the futuristic Lavos. You learn of how even Robo's closest friend bot also wants Robo to abandon the humans and join them. Robo is forced to destroy her and put her to rest. The side quest where you help Fiona get rid of a sand monster in a dungeon is like the only fetch quest, but it provides a lot of goodies and a fun boss fight. But I really like the quest that came after, where you have to replant the forest, which was a really cool way because you leave Robo in the past to help her replant the forest. And then you go back to the present. You see a shrine that was built, dedicated to Fiona and Robo for saving it. And Robo is the literal statue, so we rescue him. And he tells us that he's been waiting for 400 years, and it only felt like moments to us. But he's glad he could help. It still makes me feel really bad for him though. After saving Robo, the crew camps out and they all talk about what they would do if they could change the past for any of them, selfishly. This starts Luca's main quest, where she goes back in time to see if she can stop the machine she helped build with her father from ravenously cutting off her mother's legs because her skirt got stuck in the escalator. You then hear the most gut-wrenching 8-bit scream. I wasn't able to save her because I didn't know the passcode to turn off the father's machine, but there's a note that states what it is, but I forgot what it was, and you're actually able to save her if you figure out the password, which I saw it. I saw the note, but I forgot what it was, and I didn't put two and two together, and you're on a timer when you put it into the machine. I didn't save until like an hour before this, so I didn't want to do that much gaming to get back to where I was just to save her mother, so sorry, Luca. There are a few other side quests that offer some unique boss fights, like fighting the sun golem in the future, taking his moonstone and transforming it into a sunstone that we've heard so much throughout the story, especially in Zeal. This stone is one of the main components, along with another rainbow stone, which you get from our traveling friend that we meet in the bars and give him a proper frat party send-off when his gravestone is shown on a beautiful cliff. These components provide us with the mats to get the best sword in the game for Chrono, along with some cool ass dungeons and bosses. Following the steps to get the materials to revive our dead MC, which is actually completely optional. You can beat the game without him, which is kinda wild to me, but also really cool, and I feel like it was never been done before. Well, especially at this time, because this game is 30 years old. Depending on what character you have in your party, you might get a few different reactions. I liked having Marl because it seemed like the canon love interest, and her reaction was just really sweet. Now, reviving Chrono, it's time to take on the Queen and Lavos, or just Lavos if you don't care about the other timelines. This game has 13 different endings, which was a big deal at the time, and it must have been the sole inspiration for Yoko Taro to double it and give it to the next person. I got ending 1, and I didn't want to play this game another 12 times, so I was happy with ending 1, since it seems to be the most canon one as well. It makes sense for Chrono Cross from what I've seen, but I also heard that the game isn't really a sequel. And don't worry, I will be playing that too, just not right now. I need a JRPG break. They take up a lot of my time, and I don't mean that in a bad way. They are just long, but I enjoy every second of it. Ah, fuck. Let's talk about the ending now. In the end, Lavos is trying to become the ultimate life form. With strategy, this boss fight was pretty easy for the first phase, and then the second phase you had to use a little bit of brain power to figure out the best optimal way to defeat all the goons before they quick revive each other. One of the goons was a juggernaut, and only lets it down when you defeat the others. Took me about 3 tries because there will be times I forget to stay at full health. Overall, it was kind of a disappointing boss battle, and the music wasn't that great either, to be honest. Time for the ending. Chrono wakes up in his house, with a soldier being in his way, talking about the execution, which I was about to be so mad. But then we get to the castle, and the king asks where Marl is, thinking that Chrono did something. He did not. Instead, Marl shows up and tells her father that they were, as the father interrupts and says, saving the future? And then one NPC from each world comes out from the stairs and congratulates them on putting an end to Lavos. At the fairgrounds, a party is being held for saving the world, and we have one big old rager before we meet back at where it all started. Our friends are there too. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye, but it doesn't state why. I assume it's because it will fuck the timelines up or something, but I'm gonna miss our team. It was a good party. It had just the right amount for most of the characters. I still wish Ayla got more of a backstory or a quest for fun. And we end off with Chrono's mom losing the cat in the portal, so now we gotta do it all over again. Woohoo! The ending cutscene explains the ending cutscene. That's so dumb! The ending cutscene shows Chrono and Marl getting married and living happily ever after as prince and princess. Ayla proposing to some caveman dude that we know nothing about unless I missed a quest. I don't know. Frog becoming man and being sworn back into the knights and maybe even a promotion too. Luca building her own version of Robo. Look at him, he's so adorable. And then kidnapping a baby. Who ends up being our MC in Chrono Cross, maybe? And that's it. Not sure if there's any other cutscenes for the other endings, but that was just ending 1. And I'll play this game again in maybe a few years. Overall, a really spectacular game with little to no flaws, damn near perfect pacing with literally no hiccups. A great OST for 1995, and truly one that is still remembered to this day, and how influential it has been. I enjoyed every character, but wish a couple had a little more shine. The combat got a little stale when it came to the father we had to fight, but the boss battles were awesome and never got stale, usually using a different strategy for each one. I felt like the use of cutscenes was sometimes random and multiple moments, like 2 or 3 of them, and like the biggest moments in the story, there was like no cutscene, which was strange, but I didn't mind it. I truly recommend every JRPG or video game lover in general to play this game, because this is an almost perfect JRPG with only 30 hours to do the main story plus 76% of the side content. So let's just say it really respects your time. But yeah, go play this game. If you made it this far, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and a comment about what you thought about the game or my review. I'd love to get a conversation going with you ladies and gentlemen. See ya!